Today I want to talk about the Oklahoma Sooners winning their 6th consecutive Big 12 championship. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kidfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about the back to back Big 12 champion Oklahoma Sooners. Thanos might have been cribbing from the speech Lincoln Riley gave during the pregame Into the Future, Back to the Future, in a chase for the Infinity Stones, when he said, "I am inevitable." Because that's how it feels to bet against the Oklahoma Sooners winning the Big 12 championship. I did national radio both as a host and as a guest across the country to start this season, with one question being thrown at me in particular, which is, RJ, who is going to win the Big 12 championship? And I would say, without fail, Oklahoma, till somebody proves they can take it from them. It has become a fool's errand to bet against Oklahoma winning the Big 12 championship, even more so than it was. Because when Bob Stoops coached Oklahoma, they won 10 Big 12 titles in his 18 years as head coach. Since Lincoln Riley joined the staff, Oklahoma has won the Big 12 championship every single year. Every single one. 3 with him as a coordinator, 3 with him as the head coach. And he continues to rack up outstanding victories. This one coming against the number 6 ranked Iowa State Cyclones, who some thought would be playing for a college football playoff spot if Ohio State were to lose, or if Clemson were to get doubled up by Notre Dame. Now, that's not likely to happen. 1, because they lost, and 2, the Big 12 champion is probably out with 2 losses. But it stands to reason that Oklahoma could vault into that number 6 spot, if not the number 5 spot, depending on how you feel about how Texas A&M was able to beat Tennessee earlier today. What we do know is Ohio State was able to get its victory in an outstanding game for Trey Sermon, where he rushed for over 300 yards, breaking Eddie George's record for rushing yards in a game. And yet, we're looking at Oklahoma, and it's not Spencer Rattler or Ramondre Stevenson or Marvin Mims or even Braden Willis, who was huge down the stretch, who won you the game. All of those guys were instrumental in putting this game out of reach for Iowa State and establishing an early 24-7 lead. Who won you the game was not just Alex Grinch's defense, but a secondary that was the worst in football. 129 out of 130 teams when Grinch took over the defense. They weren't great last year. This year, they have developed in 10 games into being dependable, the kind of guys that want to tackle, and the kind of guys that can run. They're still the kind of players that can be outmatched, right? Charlie Kohler proved you can be more physical than Oklahoma if you can get into their face with Pat Fields, with Trey Brown, with Trey Norwood. What we did see, though, is that Roy Manning and Grinch have developed some ball hawks. Trey Norwood picked up his 4th interception in this game. That is tied for the most in the Big 12, and he did it in 10 games, okay? Add to that Trey Brown and his tremendous ability as a returner and his game-sealing interception once again in a big game. Earlier, he did that against Texas. He was huge against Texas in the 2018 Big 12 championship game. And once again, huge in this one. But you're looking at Pat Fields, who also had an interception in this game where he was Johnny on the spot, a bad idea that went into fruition for Brock Purdy. When he had Xavier Hutchinson down the field over the top, he tried to thread the needle. There was no needle to thread. There was only Pat Fields to pick it off. And that's how you end up with Pat Fields getting the second of 3 interceptions in this game. Then toward the end, it came down to not Spencer Rattler's ability to lead Oklahoma in winning time, but what Perion Winfrey and Ronnie Perkins and that defense was able to do against that Iowa State offense all day today. Disrupt, get into the backfield, forced Brock Purdy to be uncomfortable, and tremendous in getting upfield, but also tremendous in the run game, stopping Breece Hall. This was a man that came into the game with 1,357 yards on the ground. That is more rushing yards than any other running back in the country going into championship weekend. And they held him to under his average and under 100 yards rushing. I want to go through a few other notes and stats here just to round this out. A sixth straight Big 12 championship for the Sooners. My goodness, man. Like, the other thing that I think is kind of sucks is you had an early targeting penalty that I think could go either way. I didn't think it was a good call, and I hate that we're tossing kids out immediately, but that happened for Hasheem Young. Then we had what Matt Campbell thought was a offsides penalty that went uncalled against Oklahoma, when really, if the center snaps the ball, then you got the guys coming off sides. But then Matt Campbell went full octagon, full pointing at the referees, which I'm pretty sure is an unsportsmanlike penalty, and really lost his composure in a way that I've seen him do before. But in these games in December where they seem to matter most to him, like when they played against Mike Leach in Washington State a few years ago, he can get overamped and probably will apologize for his display of emotion, but you can understand why he was upset. He thought that he had an offsides penalty that wasn't called. But again, within the rules, everything was fine. Just snap the football. Still, Brock Purdy threw for 322 yards, 27 of 40 with those 3 interceptions. Breece Hall, 23 carries, 79 yards. Outstanding job for the defense by Oklahoma to stop him. 97 yards rushing on 18 attempts for Ramondre Stevenson, and then 7 catches for 101 yards from Marvin Mims in this one. Rattler goes 22 of 34 for 272 with 1 TD and 272 yards. Look, you won turnovers, which we don't get to say enough about Oklahoma. The thing that Alex Grinch wanted the most when he came to the Sooners was to institute a culture that was about turning the offense over. Their job was to get the ball back and give it to the offense as quickly as possible. You would see Oklahoma go into seasons looking to record 24 takeaways in a season and not getting anywhere near it. And then shortly after the loss to Iowa State, things started to click in a meaningful way for the defense. You got interceptions out of defensive backs. You got timely play and rushing upfield from your ends. You saw Isaiah Thomas come into his own. You got Ronnie Perkins back. And then you go on a run. Oklahoma has won 7 straight games since its last loss. For perspective there, Ohio State is won 6 straight and 6-0 into a Big Ten championship. It would have been interesting to see what the committee would have decided to do if Northwestern had been able to pull off the upset against Ohio State in what was a really valiant effort for them, particularly by their defensive back. But now we know that Oklahoma's going to get into the Cotton Bowl. They're going to get into it as the Big 12 champ, and you're probably going to see them against the Texas A&M in that Cotton Bowl. So tremendous for Lincoln Riley, tremendous season for a team that I did not expect to make the playoff, and I did not expect to be this good either. So, all right, that's it for me. Doses.